Hello everyone and welcome to the Deep Thinking YouTube channel. Today we are going to be doing a more freestyle of talking video where I don't necessarily have a script, but I just have notes which I'm going to be discussing upon. Today we're basically going to be doing an overview of the Fermi paradox, which we've covered many times on this channel already. We're going to be looking at some of the ones that we have already discussed on the channel, giving more of a personal account on what I believe to do with those different hypotheses about alien life in the universe, and then giving dabbling little bits more of information in for you guys to enjoy. I've not really necessarily been able to write a script this week due to the fact that I have been actually ill. I am actually quite ill right now, so I thought I would try and at least make some kind of content for you guys to enjoy, which you know, I'm really enjoying making these YouTube videos, so I didn't want to take too long out of it and destroy my creativity as much as possible. But you know, you can only go on so much while you're feeling ill, if that makes sense. I can't sit down and write a script, do lots of research and everything. So, you know, I've got my notes and we're going to start talking. So, zoo hypothesis, one of the first, if not the first, Fermi paradox solution, which I covered here on the channel. I believe it was my third video. The zoo hypothesis, of course, being basically equivalent to what humans have in zoos, and we are basically the subjects of this zoo, us and all the other life on Earth, and aliens have been watching us since the dawn of time, or however long they've been watching us. And you know, we can just assume that if that is a thing, they're most likely doing it because of research, slash they might just find it fun watching a different species and understanding more about their social and political outcomes, basically, of their society. It feels like that could be a very plausible reason for a lot of these alien sightings that we've had over the years, whether that be, you know, the gentleman in the Air Force for the Americans who spotted a crazy craft, and we have the video of that, and then we have stuff like Roswell incident and all these different things, Bob Lazar talking about UFOs in Area 51. Maybe this could explain to us some of those things, if those have any kind of validity to them at all, but obviously it's no concrete evidence that we have seen any aliens at all. But yes, other factors, this would make life completely not rare in the universe, most likely. We can't actually know. We can't actually know unless we're on another level discussing all of the other life in the universe, and we have lots of civilizations that are observing us, not just one, basically. But here's another one, that life is rare in the universe, which seems like a very you know, good outcome to come to, or the fact that we are early in life in the universe. So we'll discuss both of those because they kind of relate together in a similar way. So if life is rare in the universe, you know, perhaps life is rare because we are early on in the universe. It makes sense that it would be, because you know, we're quite early on in the sense of maybe the grand scheme of the universe, compared to what has existed already for us to have the ability to look back on and reflect on through, you know, seeing in the past, seeing different galaxies and stars and everything like that. So perhaps we're in a stage where life is just you know, coming into fruition, and we are some of the first we are one of the first civilizations in our local cluster of galaxies. Maybe we're one in this galaxy, maybe there's some in the Andromeda galaxy chilling out, maybe there's only one in each galaxy. We can't know 100% for sure. So this may mean that we are early in the stages of life in the universe, but it would explain, or if it's rare, perhaps we could fill in the great filter from there. But what I mean by filling in with the great filter is that could be the reason for the rare amount of life in the universe, because if it makes sense, if we look at it in a certain way and go, okay, right, there's a great filter. The great filter, of course, being that, you know, life eventually reaches a point where it goes extinct, either from natural causes like meteors or whatever it is, asteroids smashing into the planet, to humans destroying themselves through affecting the environment, like with climate change, or with nuclear warfare. So there's many different reasons that we might actually go extinct from our own outcomes of different scenarios that we have done to ourselves. There's also different ways that we may go extinct from things on a cosmic level. So when we're thinking about those ideas, we have to figure out how likely it is that we're going to get to a different conclusion than that there isn't a great filter. So we have to keep pushing forward with our technological innovations in astronomy and planetary sciences, and looking at all the different planets and trying to learn as much information as possible as we can about these different planets, about the nature of the planets, about what life thrives under. And it's a very hard stage that we're at now. We're in the early stages of technological advancement in our society. So let's say that we live a long time. We are early in society in general, let alone early in advancements of the technological kind. So we have to kind of think of it in that way. But also we can relate with ancient aliens, when you're thinking about the pyramids or something like that, and some people were believing with the pyramids that they had some alien intervention to help them create those pyramids. Who knows? Maybe that is a fact. Maybe not. Maybe we were influenced. Our societal norms and things like that came from aliens that were helping to push us in a direction, maybe to get us towards joining on some kind of council in the future. That's what I would assume that it would be about if they were trying to influence us in a certain way, because they're not going to give us technologies and then leave us alone for the potential that we might become super technologically advanced and then be aggressive and assertive and take the fight to them and destroy their civilization, and then they've just screwed themselves over by giving us technology. So you have to understand it in that way, rather than saying, oh, okay, we might get given things. Just you got to kind of judge why a civilization would give you something as major as technologies, as major as new social structures and things like that. You have to understand why that might be a factor. It's very hard because discussing alien life is very speculative. We're discussing speculation when it's coming to discussing about life in the universe. So we have to delve deep within our minds to try and understand as much about reality as we can, as much about the fact of alien life as we can. And we must we're searching out for signals like with SETI and everything, of course, but we also need to be looking out for biosignatures on planets as well, let alone techno-signatures. We have a lot of places in the solar system even itself that we can search for life, for example on Jupiter's moons, or for example subsurface waters on Mars and everything like that, and on those Jupiter moons. So we don't really know 100% that there isn't life in the solar system other than on Earth. It's not, at least not very prominent in the sense of like it is on Earth, but perhaps there are signs that life used to be quite a large point of Mars's past. Because they do believe that it did have surface water on Mars, and they do believe that it did with Venus. And as we know, Venus does have a point in its atmosphere where it is actually habitable. When you go up to a certain height in the sky, on Jupiter, you are getting to a habitable zone. So we can't know that there isn't some form of life in that. You've got to wonder how something would survive in that nature, how something would thrive and come about in that nature. So unless something that lived on there before is then adapted into a different flight animal that flies around and does all this different type of thing, then we don't know what it could be. We don't know the possibilities of it, bearing in mind the fact that Venus is a very, very, very hot planet. It's a hell world. So we can only really know what we know in that sense. With all of these Earth-type worlds, we've got to come to conclusions like, are we seeing other plant life on the planet? Because if we are, then that means that there's probably going to be some sort of basic life, whether that be like snails or things like snails and slugs and things like that for us. Like there's going to be some sort of insects, different things like that that move around and do their little things. maybe life isn't as complex as it is everywhere. Maybe the complexness of a life is more rare in the universe, but perhaps the life in general isn't. What I believe with life myself is that it's like a roll of the dice. Life can be placed anywhere in the sense of let's say through panspermia or other life potentially placing it there. It just depends how far you are along in the cycle. Does a great filter exist? If a great filter doesn't exist, or does exist, are we past it now? If we're past it, did anybody else pass it? Because if it's possible to pass it, then it means that other people can pass it for sure. Are we early in stages of life in the universe, or are we late? If we are late, that probably increases our chances of being placed here by alien life. But if we're not, then that means that we are probably more likely going to be the people who place life somewhere in the future to study life from its original conception on a planet by terraforming a world and creating a type of zoo situation where it is like we're putting life there and we're studying it. So it's very interesting to think and speculate on these points and try and come to different conclusions about the nature of our reality, because when discussing life in the universe, it really is one of the most important things, because we need to know who we inhabit this universe with, because, you know, we may not be related in the sense of our compositions are made up of the same things because we come from the same planet or we're the same species or whatever, but we're all from the same universe. And it all, as the boy Shrek said, it seems like an onion. Like onions have layers, as he says, you know, and there's definitely layers to this universe in the sense of, so we have microbes, they have their own layer where they have their own experience of reality, whereas this, you know, we can't see this very sub-level thing. Then, you know, ants, then other smaller animals, then we have ourselves, then we have the planet, then we have a galaxy, then we have multiple galaxies, then the entire universe, then potentially multiverses, and does it go on and on and extend from there? And is the universe an onion? That is basically what I'm trying to say. Maybe it is an onion. Maybe the more and more, maybe Shrek was right. Maybe everything's an onion, you know? Maybe that's why Shrekers love Shrekers life, hey, ladies and gentlemen, but we can't know exactly where 100% with anything to do with science, but that's why science and philosophy moving together well, and it is great to know different facts about science and trying to predict outcomes of our reality, because, you know, the universe is massive in the sense of it is huge, like it is absolutely enormous. So when we're looking through and trying to get into a new stage of our technological advancement, like we need to accept the fact that the universe is massive and that it's going to be very hard to colonize anything more than just the galaxy, because, you know, you probably want to just stick to your galaxy, because the more and more you span out, you know, do we need all of this room? Do we need all of these things? We need the resources. Maybe in the future, maybe with all this technological advancements they make way down the line, maybe they'll need more and more and more and more and more. But then does that come into perspective of like, will they start taking from people? Will they start becoming an evil civilization? Is that how we know what the nature of a civilization would become? Are we aggressive? Will our nature always be aggressive? Or will we head down a more peaceful path in the future? These questions are all very, very relevant when discussing alien life, because when you think about it, we actually have to know how we're going to end out in the future. We have to predict how we're going to become in the future to know the outcome later down the line for sure, because if we don't look at our past to learn more about the future, then we're just going to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. Yes, history does have a pattern of repeating itself, but we do seem to learn from things that happen to us and try and push ourselves into a newer and better future. So if it makes sense, we have to keep working towards striving for better technologies in astronomy, in engineering, in science, in mathematics, you know, in art, in all of these different things. They all matter in their own sense. Sciences and mathematics and engineering, they all matter in the sense that creating technologies and computing and things like that, all of these things, robotics, all of these things matter in the sense of they're gonna help us get to more locations in the future. They're gonna help us discover more about our reality and more about our universe, and they're going to help us reach different places quicker and easier and more efficient, and, you know, give our species the best chance of living for longer and giving us more of a chance of discovering more potential species out there in the universe. We also have things, of course, like art, you know, film and TV, all of this different things that keep the ball rolling in the sense of keeping people's mental well-being in check, because we all like playing video games, we all like watching movies, we all like reading books, whatever it is you enjoy doing, using your telescope, looking out at the night sky. We all like to de-stress in certain ways, and we need lots of those things to de-stress. So there's always going to be room for these kind of things. I don't believe that people are going to become these just fixated robots who are thinking all the time about innovation and technological advancement, because, you know, the human mind is not made to just be occupied by work, because we do need leisure time, because we need to recalibrate our brains, and we need to then have a creative reset so we can then be more creative and be more innovative by having a reset and recuperating ourselves and mentally checking ourselves. Because if we don't do that, then we're going to screw ourselves over, and we're going to more likely move into a more negative future, which is the main thing that we are trying to prevent. We're trying to prevent a negative future. We're trying to place positivity down for the next generations, because I always say to my friends, like, we're like the caretakers of Earth, right? You know, except when we hand in our resignation, you know, we don't want to hand in our resignation, but the job is not permanent, as they say. Well, as I say, the job is not permanent, and we are here to do our part in keeping the maintenance of this planet up and giving a better future to the individuals that will come after us, basically. Because if we just screw up this planet like what is happening right now, all that's going to happen is people's grandchildren, great-grandchildren, they're just going to die in horrible ways. Like, we need to prevent this from happening. It's our literal instinct to want to provide and give nurturing and care while we're still alive. And thinking about the future. Just because we're dead doesn't mean that we're not going to know. Like, necessarily. Like, maybe we won't know, or maybe we will know. But, you know, it still doesn't matter. Just because you're not existing in your physical life form as a human being at that moment in time, it still exists that the bad thing happened. So, you know, we need to stop focusing on the negative, stop focusing on stop focusing on materialistic things. You know, materialism can be fine. You can enjoy things in moderation, just like how we enjoy all things. Because if you don't enjoy it in moderation, you're going to become too obsessed. And if you become too obsessed, you become addicted to the said thing. It's why people become addicted to work, they become addicted to cigarettes, alcohol, whatever it is. People become addicted to literally anything. Addicted to video games, addicted to whatever it is. Like, people can become addicted to literally anything. So to work yourself through that and try and moderate your lifestyle is a very hard thing in general. I know this technically doesn't have anything to do with life, but when talking about life in the universe, we're talking about life, we're talking about life forms problems, because we are, in a sense, a life form. Like, we are a form of life, yeah, more complex in nature to our reality. We don't know how complex we are in the grand scheme of the universe. We don't know how complex we are in the grand scheme of different dimensions and realities, and whether it's multiverses and things like that. We don't know what our level of intelligence is. We don't know whether we can cross over into these different dimensions of reality. We don't know anything at this point, in the sense of we only know what we know. We know a good amount. We know a great amount due to the hard work of smart people. Very, very smart individuals who deserve a hand, because damn, they laid down a much more they paved the way for us to be doing it a lot easier than they are. We have access to one of the greatest technological innovations that human beings have ever created, being the internet, and we can research anything that we want. And people usually don't research the smart stuff. People will still research flat earth. People will still do dumb shit like that. So you know, you can only so much present people with a resource, and people use it for the benefit of everybody else, and people are also going to use a resource to exploit people. what we need to do is figure out how you moderate the exploitation of people and try and get rid of that the most, and bring in the more positive future. Because if the positive future's not there, then what is the point of going on? People are always going to be trying to, if you've watched Game of Thrones, Littlefinger their way to the top. They always do it. You always see the little weasels like Littlefinger in real life doing their thing. That's why credit to Aidan Gillen, the actor, because he played that weasel very well. Like nobody likes a weasel like that. He weasels their way through into the top. We see them in politics. We see them in social media. We see them in all walks of life. You see them in your workplace. Not everybody sees them in their workplace, but you see them in their workplace in where, as they say, brown nosing. That's what they call it. Put in your head where the sun don't shine. To gain more stature, to gain more income, to gain more whatever it is. But gaining those things is great, because then you can put your life in a positive direction and do all the things in your life that you want to do. But if you do all of those things and then you lose your soul along the way, what's the point of that? And even if you don't believe in souls, you don't believe in things like that, you lose yourself as a human being in general. Do you know what I mean? You lose your heart, you lose your innocence, all of it, because I've seen from myself, as I get older, you lose a lot of your innocence as a person. You really lose a lot of who you are. But you gain the upgraded version through each different experience, because experiences condition you to understand more about life. And it's all about understanding that things in life are not personal. We can understand some stuff as personal, of course, but we can understand that there is a greater scheme to our lives than what is laid out in front of us. I believe that social situations and political situations do distract us from the nature of our reality. They distract us from the conversation of reality, because I found that throughout my entire life, I never really thought of it like this. I never thought of these things in that way. I was never taught the extent of that, any of the sciences, any of the philosophical points, any of the philosophical talking points that I'm talking about right now, or the scientific ones, or the mathematical ones, whatever the hell you want to talk about it in the sense of that. They taught it in school. They taught you so much, but, they didn't teach you those critical thinking aspects of it. They didn't teach you how to set yourself up for a great future. They taught you what you might need to know. They taught you the basic knowledge, and they didn't work with you individually as a student, because there's thousands of students. So you have to put in your own work and effort, and I understand that now. You don't understand it sometimes as a kid. Some kids do understand it, and sometimes we're not as fortunate as other people, and sometimes we are. Sometimes we're more fortunate with our brain functioning, with our academia. Some people are more better hands-on. Some people are better, at different aspects of life. Some people are more physical. Some people are more mental. Some people are more, there's different aspects of it, and that's just how it is. And all of these different complex constructs that we have within our society, you break those down into all the different sectors of life. For example, with apes, or, packs of wolves, or whatever it is, any other different group of animals, as you slowly break it down, you kind of see the subsections of what we do ourselves in them, but then you see them have their own spin on it because of how they are as a being, what is their focus for them, and what can their brain power, the access to their brain power that they have, put them for in the future. Do you know what I mean? Things are very complex. Things are really very, very complex, and this is one planet within a potentially, in my opinion, infinite universe. So you've got to think about it in that sense. You've got to really actually remind yourself these things on a day-to-day basis, because if you don't, then you're really setting yourself up to be literally tripped out as you get older, like I did, because I set myself up for a point where I've learned a lot more about the nature of my reality that I'm living in potentially, and pretty much set in stone that we know these things. You know, there's things that we know you can't 100% prove, but there's things like gravity. We know gravity exists. We know all these things. We don't know the natures and everything about it to a T like you'd want to know it, but we know the fundamentals of how it works. We know the complex nature of how it works. We know molecular level things, but we don't know lots of stuff. We know a good length of knowledge. That's what I've said before. It's just how it is. Life can genuinely be very confusing, whether it be us thinking about alien life, whether it be thinking about any other aspect of reality. But see it like this: there is meaning in every aspect of life. The meaning of life is what you make it, and the meaning of life is to be great and positive towards other people and try and create a better future. Be the good maintenance man for the planet on the time that you're on it, that you can. And then try and get humanity to a good point of where you feel comfortable leaving this place, because that is literally what it is, man. You got to do that. You got to keep yourself aligned spiritually, mentally, physically. Keep yourself aligned in all of those ways. If you want to keep yourself aligned in all of those ways, you probably should. You should probably check your mind, your body, your soul, as they say. Keep yourself motivated, keep yourself checked and in line, and then potentially we might encounter some aliens in the future, which would be very great. But this has been a fairly long debate, not really debate, more of a conversation about random stuff. But yeah, it's been very fun. I hope you enjoyed the video. So yeah, if you really did, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bells. Slap a like button on the video. Enjoy your day and peace out, my friends.